This video will help you to draw, and especially if you would like to enlarge a subject from a small picture onto a larger paper. And I have several examples. If I've chosen one that is a larger picture, I will choose a grid to cover it that is a better match for the size. If I have chosen a smaller picture, I'm going to choose a grid that matches that size. I also have prepared some large gridded paper that will be your sloppy copy or your sketch. Then we will transfer your final drawing onto the final paper. We're going to work very large for this project, so I have two pieces of grid paper that need to be assembled. And I've marked one of them with an R for the right side, and I didn't mark the other side because I realized later that I needed to do that, but I ran the copies with it plain. So one with a little tiny square that's plain and one with an R, and you're going to match those two sides up together, and you're going to put some tape on the paper. I would maybe put some at the corner, on the top, and then some again at the bottom, then flip it over and put a couple of pieces of tape so that your paper doesn't move around when you're trying to sketch. Now I'm going to hold my paper the portrait way or the tall way. So I have the skinnier edge at the top, and I'm going to use a picture of a grue, and I've lined it all up. Using a grid transfer helps you to draw what's in the grid. So you don't want this sliding around while you're working. So you need to put it on top of your paper and tape it down so that it stays put. So if it moves, then it's going to affect your drawing. So I've taped it down to my copy. You can do this at home by just sketching a grid at your paper on your paper with a pencil very lightly. This is done on a transparency so that you do not have to spend the time marking the paper up with a grid. They have to be in squares. And then the copy that's bigger, this will enlarge this up 4 times bigger because one of these squares fits into one of these squares 4 times. So depending on how much larger you want it, you can change your grid to different sizes. So I'm going to use this as an example. I've numbered down the side. If that helps you, you can correspond the numbers to the one that you're working with. Of course, I have mine upside down, so let's put number 10 is at the top here, so I'll put my number 10 there. Now, I did not draw, there is nothing drawn in the first 4 boxes of this grid. So these 4 boxes correspond or line up with them. The 4th one, so it's like there's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5th box, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, has Grue's finger sticking up in it. So I'm going to sketch where the finger might be. Now the one below it has his hand, and I'm going to try to copy what that hand looks like. As it crosses the grid, I'm going to cross the grid as well. And if you take your time, you can put his fingers here, and his thumb is going to be right about there. And then it's going to curve around and come off the grid like that. He's got a really skinny little wrist. Now his sleeve is like this. It passes through this grid, and it touches his elbow right about there, and then it leaves a little space going across to his body, and then his arm comes down like that, and his shoulder reaches up into this box, and the top of his collar is right here. Now, if you do this a little bit at a time, you'll be able to sketch whatever it is you're trying to more accurately. Grue's face, you can see that whole thing, his face takes up these 2 boxes next to his wrist. So his head is going to be right here, comes down toward his collar with his little ear sticking up, and then his head is a little bit flat, goes over this grid, comes down. And in this way, you just proceed slowly, comparing where the lines are on this grid to where they are on the larger grid, trying to make them correspond. So that's where the Grue's scarf is. Comes around like this, a little bit in there. Now I'm not going to have you watch me sketch the whole thing, but as you can see, it's starting to take shape. His eyeball is right across where the line is, and his eyebrow is right near the top, right there. So I'll do his face, and then I'll stop and let you take over. His other eye is right near the edge of his head, right here, and his nose kind of sticks out like this. His eyebrow is here. All right. Then his mouth, partly here. All right, and that's how you proceed, one square at a time, comparing what you have on this picture to what you have on this picture.